Hey everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode. My name is John.
And I'm Nina. I am your co-host for this episode. Thank you for joining us for episode 3. And today we are here with Daniela from the Counseling Center.
Woohoo!
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Why does pride matter? Or why does it still matter to this day?
Well, it matters because visibility matters, right? I think we're still often fighting to have a space in the world. I think especially in this current climate that we are in, with laws coming out and being introduced that are meant to take our rights away or attack us or marginalize us, it's even more important for us to continue to celebrate Pride, to take up space, to let people know we are here, right? And I think it's also important because this gives hope to future generations, right? There's still somebody out there that thinks that they're better off not being here than being themselves, that is scared to be who they are, is living maybe in a small town and doesn't have anybody to look up to, right? Doesn't have a role model, doesn't have anybody that is part of the queer community, right? Like that is why we have Pride, because visibility matters and honoring those who've come before us, those who are here, and those who are here are, going to be with us in the future, all right? Mm-hmm. We're here, and we're not going anywhere, especially not now. Ever. Period.
Do you think social media has helped with making visibility more, out there?
Yes, I 10,000% do. I think, honestly, that's what even helped me as I was going through my journey of, seeing other folks who are, out and open with their partners, or just even simple stuff as the way you dress or the way you express yourself, or who your friends are, where there's spaces that are really queer friendly, showing where the parades are and advertising who's gonna be there, all that stuff is super awesome and helpful. And even I just follow my local community, and they always advertise when their Pride is going to be, and, who's going to be there, and what the events are going to be and who's tabling, and, it's helped a lot. And I think it shows people that they're not alone, you're not in a bubble, you're not isolated.
You work closely with students every single day. Mm-hmm. What are some challenges that LGBTQ plus students face when it comes to mental health?
One that's kind of been bothersome to me lately is the notion that, we are not all out in every space. So what do I mean by that? Just because you might be out here at NJCU, at the Counseling Center, at the Pride Center, at OSP, wherever your safe spaces are, right, doesn't mean that you're out in every single space. It can be difficult for queer folks to be out and be proud. You might not have family members or friends or community members that are going to be supportive of you being out.
Right.
So I do work with some students who unfortunately have been outed, and it's been unsafe for them, right? You can't go home, or, grandma finds out, or, a friend makes a public declaration. It can create really unsafe situations for people. So that's some of the challenges that we face. I think additionally too, one that I'm pretty passionate about is this notion of fluidity. I don't think we talk about enough that when we're exploring our identity, it's completely okay.
Right.
Once you say you're gay, it doesn't just mean you're gay and that's it, done, closed door, right? No, there's fluidity to this process. When we're figuring stuff out, labels can change, or maybe who you're with can change. Just because you saw me with a man once doesn't mean that now it's not okay for me to be with a woman, right? Mm-hmm. Just because I once used she, her pronouns doesn't mean that now I can't take up space with she, they pronouns, right? Everything's an exploration. And I wish we normalized that a little bit more as a society. Right. But I think it's one of the challenges that we see in therapy, of people feeling super pressured, right? To be this is who I am. And it's guess what? You may not know yet, and that's okay. You might be trying something on for size and seeing if it fits, and that's cool. And then I'd say just after that, we just try to help people be comfortable once you have it sort of figured out, right? And that sometimes can be a journey, and it can be beautiful, and and hard one all at the same time. And yeah, but those are definitely some of the bigger things that I think are really prevalent with college age folks. Yeah.
Right. So,
And how do you think allies or like the fellow student body can support their LGBTQ plus community here?
Yeah, I love that question. Like we were having a conversation earlier, and I was like, you don't have to like show up in your full rainbow suit to show that you're an ally, right? Like, you can do really little things. It can be as simple as having a sticker on your phone or a flag in, your office space, right? Or even just like sharing your location with, your queer friend who's going on a date for the first time, just to make sure that they're safe.
right.
Giving them a safe space to talk about, their dating life just as you would if they were straight, right? Like, allyship doesn't have to be this whole huge, like, performance. It can be so small and simple. I'll never forget when I first started working here, I had flags all on my, on one of my bookshelves. And I had a student say to me, like, oh my God, I knew that this was a safe space because I saw the flags. And it's something I hadn't even thought of. I just thought, like, oh, these are cute. Like, I've never had all of the different flags before. Like, let me put them up. How wonderful. But it meant a lot to that student. And now I try to do little things. Like, I have a flag on my door. I have, like, a safe space kind of sticker. One thing I, too, would, love to plug is the NJCU Ally Safe Zone program that we have here. I think everyone should do it, whether you're part of the community or you're not, because it's important to learn about the history, but also, again, how to just be an ally. Understand a little bit more about terms, understand a little bit more about pronouns. There's so much out there now that's, misinformed. And I think it's just nice to take something just to make sure you're educating yourself and you're just up on the latest things. Even as a queer person, I still have to be an ally to other people in my community. I don't claim to know every single thing about trans and non-binary people because I don't occupy that space.
Right.
Right? But I still try to educate myself so that I can be a good ally to them, just as I hope they're a good ally to me as, whatever I am now. I don't even know what I am now. See? Exploration, fluidity. Right? So I think that's how to be a good ally. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. For anyone who is listening who might be struggling with their identity or looking for support, what would you want them to know?
It's a process, and to trust the process. I didn't come out until I was 29, and I had to trust the process. I knew at that time that was the right time for me to explore and to show more of the world who I was, and now by allowing myself to trust that process, I am out, I have a fiance, I am out here at work, I can be an ally and a support for a lot of other queer folks here, but I had to trust the process, and sometimes it was hard, but I trusted it, and sometimes trusting the process can be learning, unlearning, growing, letting things go. It can be finding your own family. It can be finding new friends. It can be finding a new community. It can be making your own community. Anything really is possible, and then seeking support. I'm always going to plug the counseling center because it's my baby, but support is helpful. Even just having a non-biased person that you can have to talk things through with, I think is super helpful in navigating many journeys. Be it coming out, be it your new relationship, be it protection, be it safety, whatever it is. That's what I would say.
Thank you. Beautifully said, Danielle.
Thank you.
I know just now you briefly touched upon it, but I know you mentioned that you had a fiance.
Yes.
So if you're willing to share, how you guys met, how was that journey?
Sure. Yeah. So funny enough, I joke with her that I had a roster, and I'm going to put that in quotes because I definitely, in no way was it really a roster, but
No.
I had just got to a point where I was like, you know what, I'm finally going to have fun with dating because I hated dating. I hated it. I didn't like the awkward conversations. I'm going to pick a place. I just never liked it. And then I remember I started talking to my fiance, and I really didn't think anything of it, which was funny. I just was like, oh, she seems really nice. We're just having a nice conversation. She didn't curse or anything in her messages. I was like, oh my God, I'm scared of this girl. Ooh. So I remember we finally decided to go out on our first first date. And when I tell you it was hours long, I am not exaggerating. We just talked about everything. We laughed. We went to several places. But I remember I was like super scared at the end of the day because I was like, oh my God, I really like her. But I didn't think I was seeking anything. Mm-hmm. And I remember I kind of freaked out a little bit. I'm not going to lie. She still makes fun of me to this day about that because she was super sure. She's like, yeah, you want to like just be exclusive and not talk to anybody else? And I was like, oh my God, no, I'm not ready. But lo and behold, by the third date, we were exclusive because I just knew. So I met her on Hinge and I was not expecting that at all. Never in my life did I think I was going to meet someone on a dating app.
Right.
Ever. But yeah, I found her and yeah, she's my BFF. We've been together for 4 years.
So, Nina, what stood out to you?
Well, one of my favorite things that stood out here in this conversation is when you mentioned that this isn't linear, like this whole process isn't linear, because some people, they just expect to like find out the answer. Like they come out and they're like, well, since I'm gay, like I'm gay. Like that's it. Like I don't have another option. They don't feel very fluid about their expression. So I felt very like strong towards what you were saying.
Good.
About
I love that. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, this is what it is.
Yeah, this is what it is.
It's fluid. Right. It's flowy.
Right. So can you tell us about your experience coming out to your parents?
Sure.
And how did that happen?
Yeah. Well, of course, y'all don't know me that well, but I can be a little dramatic. So I was scared. I'm a very all or nothing person, which I'm working on. So I was just like, either I am or I'm not, and that's it. I struggled with that because I was just like, wouldn't I just know? And honestly, no. Like we were talking about fluidity, right? But I finally got to a point. I was 29. I was later to the party coming out, and I was like, I'm dating this person at the time who's not my fiance, but and I was like, I like her. Like this is solidifying the fact that I do, in fact, I know that I'm queer. And so I remember freaking out to some of my best friends, and they're looking at me like, girl, just tell your parents, don't you think they already know? And I was like, valid, they probably do. But I still was scared. And I remember I decided one day, I was in grad school, I came home after class, and I was like, Mom, I gotta talk to you about something. And I think she looked at me like she was like thinking like somebody died. You know what I mean? Like, because I was so serious. And I remember I started crying, and I finally told her, like, I'm dating, and like I like girls, and I at the time I came out as pansexual. And she looked at me and she was like, it's okay, right? Like, but then she took it a step further, and she's like, we knew. I'm like, okay. She's like, every time you went out with a new female friend, your dad and I thought you guys were dating and you just weren't ready to tell us yet. I was like, oh my God, not my mom thinking that every female friend I had, I was dating. So I thought that was hilarious. I was just like, that was a plot twist I was not expecting. So, we had a nice conversation. She's like, we're not going anywhere, right? Like, you be who you want to be. Like,
right.
You date who you want to date just as long as
they're your family.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank God. I was very lucky. And then I remember my dad comes home, and I told him I was dating, and he's like, cool, what's her name? It was just so simple. I hyped it up so much in my head, and they couldn't have been lovelier. And I think also, too, like, if you know your kids, you just know. And they knew. And they were always okay with it. Their rule, and I don't want to curse on the podcast, so I'm going to edit myself. Always their rule for me when I was dating was, we don't care what they are as long as they're not a blank. And you can fill in any curse word that you like there.
I love
that was my coming out, and thank God. Not everybody's story's like that. And I think we need to hold space for people whose stories aren't like that. But thank God mine was positive. And couldn't have been lovelier.
Have you ever been judged by homophobic people, and were you ever bullied at some point in your life?
I would say it was like almost like the equivalent of like microaggressions. We all know what microaggressions are, when like somebody kind of does something and I don't think their intention to be some way, but it's still like hurtful and not okay. I think I experienced a lot of that. When I was growing up, and it's funny you asked that question because we were having a conversation about this the other day at my house, and how it was tough growing up in my generation because I think like gay was an insult. Like, that's so gay, or you're so gay. or like if you were like messing around with your friend, like like kikiing and like they're like, oh god, you're a lesbian. Like they would do stuff like that, and I think that was like, it still gave the ick, and it made me feel away enough that I think that's probably what added to me maybe feeling weird or questioning of like, well, what if I was like, would you be okay with that kind of thing? And I think that was like a lot of I'm in the millennial, I'm a millennial, so it's like it was very much used as like an insult in like a weird way. And then kind of like as I got older and now that I'm like out, I don't get blatant homophobic comments, but I get like stares.
And what do you mean? And what do you mean by that?
So, like for example, once like my partner and I were on vacation with my family, and we went to the Cape May Zoo, completely like innocent, PC, and there's a group of people who, I think in their community probably it was no exposure to gay folks, and I think like, I'm just saying they were Amish, which I think they were very religious. So I think unfortunately, I just think, for them it was like, oh my God. So I remember they were like staring hard at us. And my dad actually was the one who like looked at them like, and for context, my dad is 6'3", like 260 pounds. Like he's a big solid guy. Scared the crap out of them. They scattered. But
yeah, that's right. Scram.
Yeah, scram, exactly. But we felt it. Like you feel it. Sometimes it almost feels worse than a comment, because you're just like, stop staring at me. Like you're staring holes through me. And they really were. So sometimes we get that. Like if we're holding hands in public, or like a little, like even a peck. Like I'm not making out with her at the at like a, that's no. Like normal stuff that couples do, like holding hands. Like we do sometimes get looks. And sometimes we honestly like usually just ignore it, or we just stare back at them and make them uncomfortable, which is also fun. So, so thankfully nothing too bad. But a lot of, like microaggressions and weird stuff. Like
Yeah. So my experience coming out, I wouldn't necessarily say that I came out to my mom because at a young age, I was like in third grade. I started liking boys when I was like so young, and so and of course, little old me in third grade didn't know what gay actually meant until I was like older. And so when I was like younger, like in elementary school, I always looked at some cute boys who I thought that they can be like who can be the love of my life. And so but in reality they were 100% straight. And so I didn't realize what gay meant until I was like middle school. I was like maybe like 13 years old. And so and then I learned that gay meant like quote unquote happy, but but in reality it had a total different meaning. And so I realized that I am a proud gay man, and I like what I like, and nobody cannot tell me any different, and that's on period. So
yes,
I
love that.
But yeah, Nina, any thoughts, comments?
Well, my journey was kind of weird from the get-go. I feel like ever since I was younger, I kind of knew what gay was. Because, like, I remember in first grade, was it first or kindergarten? I don't know. But I had this guy friend. He was like, yeah, I'm gay. I'm like, okay, period.
I love that.
I would just be like, okay, like, why is that so important? Like, you're still my friend. And so it's kind of just like, I don't know. I feel like children don't really know, and it's like, it's grown-ups that kind of put the hatred in their mind.
That part.
So for me, it was just like, I walked in, I was like, okay, you're who you are, I'm who I am. Yeah. And so like growing up, I would also always want to play house. That was always my favorite thing. But I would always refuse to have a husband. I was like, I don't want to be married to a guy. Like, I prefer being married to my best friend. And so it would be like my best friend would be the wife and I would be the husband. And that's just how we would play house.
I love that. That's
right.
so
That's just how it's always been since I was younger. Then it was like in middle school finally. That's kind of where I think I kind of started to realize the stigma kind of against it.
Yep.
So it'd be like me, I've always been very much female oriented, I guess you could say. I've always had girlfriends.
Yeah.
Never guy friends, like very few and slim.
Right.
And so it'd be like me and my friends would be hanging out, you know what I mean? They'd be like, oh, you guys are so gay. Like, you guys are lesbians. And we would look at each other, and then my friend would be like, oh my God, ew, what the heck? And I'm like, yeah, ew, what the heck? Yeah, no, why? And so it literally like ended up being like this whole big deal in 8th grade.
Oh my
like
God.
I think my friend ended up in like a fake relationship even to like take the eyes
Oh
away.
my God.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Some things don't change, huh?
Right, it was genuinely crazy, and I was like, okay, maybe it is serious, guys. Maybe I gotta lock in. And so it was like high school. I went to like a performing arts school, so very much I was more surrounded by LGBTQ plus people.
Yeah.
So I felt more accepting, you know what I mean? Like I was able to accompany like my friend in her journey. You know what I mean? See her get into like her first relationship. It was really cute, honestly. They're still together.
Aww.
They've been together since we were junior year, so like 3 years.
Aww.
Right, it's a
Cute.
lot. Right?
Wow.
I love hearing
Yes.
that. I love hearing that.
Right. They've been together for so long, and they literally give like married couple. Like they're always there for each other. They sleep over at each other's houses. Like it's very committed. And I'm always like, oh my God, that relationship is. You guys are like literally goals.
Yeah.
But I remember one day we went to the beach for prom weekend. It was down in Jersey Shore. Like we ended up renting a house and everything. And we go to the beach. And, you know, obviously my friend and her girlfriend, they're obviously going to be together. You know what I mean? Like, they're just doing relationship things.
Yeah.
And literally someone pulls up right next to us. We're there for like a good hour with a whole Trump cart. With the Trump flag, one on the cart too, one on a pole and stuff. And like just starts like spitting out like propaganda. And I look at the beach, I'm like, okay, babes, I have bad news. I think we're the only minorities here.
Oh no.
Oh
So
my
it was
God.
literally like the two people who were in a relationship, like our other friend who's gay, like
Yeah.
he's gay, and then I'm queer, and then like also I'm a person of color.
Yeah.
So we were just like, I don't think we have a space here right now.
No.
So we literally had to pack up our stuff and like move to the other side of the beach. And I was like, oh my God, this is so hateful. Like, why do we have to move?
Right. Right.
Okay, so-
But it was like, what can we do? Like, we were in a predominantly white area, and it wasn't our area, point blank, period. So,
And
Yeah.
this is why pride
It
matters.
is. It really matters
Right?
to
Because
this day.
this stuff still happens. And you should have been allowed to take up space in a public place, having fun with your friends. Doing normal age appropriate stuff with your friend and your
Right.
and your friends and your partner. Like
And I feel like that people should not be afraid to come out of the closet. Like if you are like if you for those of you who are listening, if you are still in the closet, you cannot be afraid to be who you are, to be who you truly are. And if you're looking for support, reach out to us. And so when it comes to sexual intercourse, can you tell us how can people be safe, especially for our young viewers out there?
yeah.
How can they protect themselves?
Absolutely. I think that's a great question, especially for the LGBTQ community, because I sometimes think that people we're not included in, these conversations about sexual health. Honestly, a lot of it is about communication, asking the questions. Are you the only one that I am having intercourse with? Are you having intercourse with other people? Are you using condoms or dental dams or any other type of protection? What does that look like for you? Have you been tested? These conversations are hard to have, but they're necessary to have. And then honestly, like consent, right? Like consent can be sexy. It doesn't have to be like a weird, awkward conversation. Is this okay? Do you like this? Is it cool if I do this? Can we hold hands in public? It can be even as simple as that, right? I know I just took it a step further from sexual intercourse, but I think all of this is linked. And honestly, like going to spaces on campus where we talk about that stuff. If you ever visit the Women's Center, there's free condoms that you can grab. You know, sometimes we have Planned Parenthood that comes to the campus. We work very closely with Hudson Pride. That's in Jersey City. They do free HIV testing. They can link you with services. They have different types of sexual health education. So all of that to know, I think, is empowering, because the more you know, the more you can protect yourself, and the more that you protect yourself, the more that you can educate other people.
What are some sexual infections and diseases that are treatable and not treatable? And can you tell us how can people get on
PrEP.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think, you know, early detection is key for a lot of things. I think we're very fortunate that we are in a world now that if you get tested, you can usually be put on medication and be good to go. Now, mind you, I want to throw out there, I'm not a doctor, but, you know, we do, again, work very closely with places like Hudson Pride and Planned Parenthood. You can get free or low-cost testing at those places, and they will assist you then with getting, you know, the proper things that you need if you do test positive. Now, John asked about PrEP. PrEP is something that you can take that can help prevent you from contracting HIV if you know that your partner is HIV positive. Hudson Pride has a program where they can also test you for HIV, but they can also assist you with getting on PrEP. That way, like, if you already know you're out and about, and, you know, you're dating somebody maybe exclusively who has HIV, or maybe you're out there and you're having intercourse, you know, casually with people, it's another kind of layer to keep you safe, in addition to using other forms of protection like condoms. So it's pretty cool how far we have come. And I think HIV and AIDS is something that still is very stigmatized within our community, but it is very treatable now. It is, you know, again, early detection is key. PrEP is very important for those, because let's face it, we all probably do know someone who is HIV positive, and it's not the same stigma as it was, right? So, you know, all of that stuff is really key when finding out about your status. And also, you're not dirty, right? Like, it's not, you know, actually we've kind of moved from calling an STD to an STI, right? Sexually transmitted disease sounds more stigmatizing than sexually transmitted infection, right? Because it's treatable,
Right.
you know, and it happens, and it's okay. And, you know, just as long as you have these conversations, like we talked about earlier, it can help with prevention and being safe and normalizing it. It's okay.
Right.
It's all right.
All right. We gotta talk about this stuff.
Yeah. That includes our conversations. So before we wrap up, I just want to thank our lovely guest Danielle for coming onto our podcast. This episode is a reminder that Pride isn't just about a month. It's also a movement, a history, and a future.
Yes, that is all true. And to our listeners who are part of this LGBTQ plus community, we are here for you. We salute you. And just a reminder, you're never alone.